Hey, good morning. I'm Patricia Murphy. It's Tuesday. This is Seattle Now. Seattle's bird communities are in trouble. A new report finds that species diversity and bird counts are steadily declining at parks all over Seattle. And the trend has been happening for years. Coming up, we'll talk with Joshua Morris, Conservation Director for Birds Connect Seattle. But first, let's get you caught up. If you're seeing helicopters and a large emergency response near the Big Four ice caves in Snohomish County today, don't be alarmed. It's a drill to prepare for a major avalanche or collapse. While the caves are beautiful, they're also dangerous, with signs warning visitors to stay back. 4 people died from injuries they sustained while visiting the caves between 1998 and 2015. Important note, the parking lot for the caves and the Ice Caves Trail will be closed between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. for the drills today. A lawsuit against the city of Seattle over Denny Blaine Park goes to trial tomorrow. The neighborhood group Denny Blaine Park for All wants the nude beach to be shut down, alleging lewd and illegal activity. Since the lawsuit was filed, the city has put up a partition between a clothed and clothing optional part of the beach, and a judge ruled that toplessness is allowed in all parts of the beach. And I don't know if you've heard, but the Men's World Cup will be in Seattle very soon. This morning, the Office of Emergency Management will present their safety plan for match days to the City Council's Public Safety Committee. The department has been at work for more than 2 years coordinating city, state, federal, and international resources for the event. The meeting starts at 9:30. Seattle's first World Cup match is Monday, June 15th. We're back with more headlines on tonight's episode of Seattle Now. Overall, bird counts in Seattle have declined 21% between 2005 and 2023. That's according to a new study from Birds Connect Seattle. It also found that species diversity declined by 18% during that same time period. For decades, the nonprofit has been studying birds at 8 Seattle sites, including Golden Gardens Park, Seward Park, and the Washington Park Arboretum.
I think I heard some golden crowned kinglets, which is one of the species that we're concerned about here at the Arboretum. We found in our bird count trend assessment that they declined by approximately 86% here, and they are a mature forest specialist species, and so they could be providing some indication on the quality of the tree canopy habitat here.
That's Joshua Morris, Conservation Director for Birds Connect Seattle. We met up recently at the Arboretum to talk about what's happening to Seattle's bird populations and why some of the steepest declines are happening at Seattle's major parks.
It's not entirely clear what is driving the totality of changes we've observed. One thing could be changes in bird behavior and movement. So we saw a decline of American crow, believe it or not, here at the Arboretum. And what our counts don't tell us is if the decline we're observing is related to population or to other factors. And we do know through research that the north end of the Arboretum used to support a crow roost, where crows would come roost communally every night. That was on Foster Island. And in the 2000s, that roost moved up to UW-Bothell campus, where it became very well known, and it was a spectacle of nature to behold, where thousands of crows would fly into the university campus every evening. And that has since moved again. And so those changing crow roosts and movements could be associated, or could be one of the reasons why we see fewer crows here at the Arboretum. However, we also know that canopy cover it has changed pretty significantly at the Arboretum. A study from 2016 to 2021 saw that we lost 16 acres of tree canopy here at the Arboretum. Some of that was due to the construction of the Arboretum Loop Trail. There were 100 trees that were removed for that. They were replanted at a ratio of 3-1, but in the meantime, we've lost that habitat, and birds can be sensitive to small changes in their environment, and sometimes what we observe, their impact can be nonlinear and disproportionate in response to what might seem to us to be small changes.
All right, we talked about the crow. What other birds are declining more than others here?
Yeah, the kinglets were the ones that we were really concerned about. The golden crowns and the ruby crown kinglets both saw pretty significant declines. And those are, the golden crowns in particular, are the forest specialists. The patterns that we're seeing are, we see divergent trends here at the Arboretum. Some species are doing well, and they are forest specialists, like Pacific wren, for example. That's a really small little native wren. It's the size of a golf ball, but has a song a mile long. And it's really associated with the forest interior, away from forest edges. It likes understory and sort of dark forest habitats. And that's increased here a little bit, not too much, but we do see some positive sign there. Unlike at Seward Park, which one might think would have some of the best forest habitat in Seattle with a remnant patch of old growth, we actually saw a significant decline there, more than 50%. And that has us wondering if the sword fern die-off that was observed there is still happening there, which changes the understory vegetation structure, could be playing a role in how the Pacific wren is able to use Seward Park. And for us, that highlights the need to think about the forest holistically. It's not just about trees, it's about all of the different structures and layers of habitat and plants that are part of the forest and that invite and support biodiversity.
Is this decline something that the average person walking through the park might notice?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were paying attention, like our volunteers were for decades, people have anecdotally felt like there were fewer birds each time they'd go out and study, or over the years as they would go out and count birds. But a lot of this is just so gradual.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of noise too. There's so much variability from year to year that the overall trends can be hidden among all of that noise. And so the data that our participants have collected allows you to kind of sort through that noise and see the underlying trends.
You mentioned a few factors. What about climate change?
Yeah, that's a big one. Historically, the main driver of bird population declines is habitat loss, and that continues to be a really important threat that we need to address. But climate change is a looming specter, or a specter that's among us, and it is expected to change the ranges that are suitable for hundreds of species. And we did take a look at the climate vulnerability of the species that we assessed. The National Audubon Society did a climate change vulnerability assessment for North American bird species, and we found that 61% of species with declining trends in our study were climate threatened, and 54% that were stable or increasing were climate threatened. So most of all birds here in Seattle are climate threatened, but there is a disproportionate threat to species that already seem to be doing badly.
What other parks are seeing the largest declines?
Magnuson Park also stood out as a pretty large decline. We saw a 32% decrease in overall counts at Magnuson Park. We did not include the restored wetland areas in this assessment. There is a bird count that occurs there, and it would be really interesting to take a look at how birds are responding to that amazing restoration effort. But at other sites of the park over this 19-year period, we saw pretty significant declines.
You know, it's funny, it occurs to me now that we're talking that, you mentioned that you're kind of like a frog in boiling water here. It's not that noticeable to you, even with your tuned-in ears. I wonder if there is a PR problem for this kind of problem.
Absolutely. I mean, we see what we look for,
Yeah.
and we are not trained to look for this.
Yeah.
And so one of my main calls to action to people is to go birding. Go out to your local parks and start paying attention to your birds. You don't even have to go to a park. Go out into your neighborhood. Walk your neighborhood streets. Birds are an amazing group of animals that bring positive experiences and connections with wildlife right next to our homes, unlike any other group of animal. And so we are really grateful for that we have birds with us in our cities, and song sparrow. We would love to see a future too where these birds continue to persist alongside us in cities.
Song sparrow competing with an airplane there.
That's right.
Welcome to Seattle. What does the city lose when the bird counts and species diversity are impacted like the way we're talking about?
Yeah, one of the big concerns is a increasing disconnect from nature. And 84% of Washingtonians live in urban areas. We see birds as a really important tool for maintaining urbanites' connection to nature and maintaining the support for continued conservation and climate action.
What will it take to reverse these trends? Is it already too late, or can we do something? Can people do something?
No, there is a growing body of evidence that shows conservation works, habitat conservation works, habitat restoration works. And so that is a really encouraging signal. It takes a while and it takes a lot of money, but not that much money compared to what we spend on many other things. And so if we create the habitat, birds will find it. Birds will come back. And not just birds, but the prey that birds need and the animals that prey on birds. And so the whole ecosystem can benefit from habitat restoration.
Do you think there is a political will at the state and in the city?
Seattleites are very environmentally minded, but still it is an uphill battle. And seeking funding and support for new projects is really difficult. And so we do need to ratchet up and think more creatively. And it's not just about habitat restoration, but protecting the habitat we do have. I think about Discovery Park, where we have one of our largest meadows, and still we saw a 75% decline of savanna sparrows, a grassland species. And that, if you go visit, you'll see that the meadow is incredibly fragmented and the vegetation is trampled from off-trail park visitors and pets that have been allowed off-leash. And so, even though the habitat is there, the quality is such that birds are struggling.
We talk a lot about how we impact birds. How do birds impact us?
That's a good question. It's a way to find restoration and to find stress relief and to develop connections with nature that ultimately have impacts on well-being. But also there's an important economic portion of this, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife studies wildlife watching, and 96 million Americans engage in intentional bird watching, and they spend more than $100 billion pursuing that interest in a given year. And so that's not an insignificant chunk of the economy. And so there's an economic incentive to maintain birds for people to pay money to go see.
What started you on this path?
They call them your spark bird.
Come on.
In birding. And I was in California. My partner and I were doing a long distance thing, and I had a lot of free time on my hands. And I found an old bird field guide amongst my junk, and was just flipping through it while I was outside at the University of Santa Cruz's Arboretum, and saw a thrasher come out of a bush. I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was a brown bird with a long curved bill, and I looked it up and learned what it was, and I've been birding ever since. Really?
So that's really all it takes. I've heard that story before about a spark bird.
Yeah, no, it's not uncommon for one single bird to spark a lifelong career, hobby, passion.
Yeah. What's a common spark bird in Seattle?
It's different for everybody, but the varied thrush, I've heard, is a spark bird for many people. It's related to the American robin. It's a little chunkier. It's got Halloween colors, orange and black. Beautiful bird, and with a haunting song. It's just a single steady note that really sounds incongruous with the forest. Some people have described it as like a train going off the tracks. But it's actually really peaceful and an amazing little bird that is endemic, unique to the Pacific Northwest.
All right. Lovely. Thank you for that. Joshua Morris is Conservation Director for Birds Connect Seattle. Really appreciate you chatting with us.
Thanks.
I think my spark bird was a heron.
Okay, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And that's the official bird of Seattle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people love
swallows, too. I love a swallow.
Oh, yes.
Thanks for listening, and thanks to our generous donors. If you liked this episode, take a minute to peck out a review. With your help, we won't abandon our roost. Today's episode was produced and edited by Andy Hurst. Our production team also includes Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Vaughn Jones, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. Talk to you tonight for Evening Headlines.